So in this video, we will review factoring methods. If you have a leading coefficient of 1, so leading coefficient of 1 means if there's a 1 in front of the term with the highest power, then we just want to think of a multiplies and adds to. Now notice these are in standard form, meaning the largest exponent comes first, the 2, then the next highest exponent, the 1, and then the constant, the part with no exponents. If you have a leading coefficient of 1, you are just looking for two numbers that add to the middle one and multiply to the last one. So in this case, a positive 5 and a positive 2 is what will multiply to 10 and add to 7. So this factors into x plus 5 and x plus 2. Now if you ever wanted to check your answer, you could just multiply it out. You could FOIL it out. So distribute the x to each, we would get x squared plus 2x. Distribute the 5 to each, we would get 5x plus 10. And combining like terms would give us x squared plus 7x plus 10. So that's just your check. This would be our answer here. These are our factors. Factor means written in a way where things are being multiplied together. So our next one, notice we've got that leading coefficient of 1, the 1 in front of the x squared. So we want adds to negative 6 and multiplies to positive 8. Well, the only way you can multiply to a positive is if you have the same sign, either two positives or two negatives. And the only way you can add to a negative out of those two options is if it's two negatives. So we know it's got to be two negative numbers that will multiply to positive 8, and they will add to negative 6. So in this case, it'll be x minus 4 and x minus 2. Now, if you have difficulty coming up with those factors, here's a technique that can help. What you can do is you can take the number you want to multiply to, including its sign. So in this case, a positive 8. Go to a graphs page on your calculator and do the number you want to multiply to divided by x. So the sign matters. So in this case, we had positive 8. If it was negative 8, we would have put negative 8 in. Hit enter, and then do Control T to go to the table. All of these pairs of numbers, so 1, 8, 2, 4, 4, 2, and so on, are the ones that will multiply to 8. So we don't have to think about that anymore. We've just got to find a pair that adds to negative 6. Well, 1 and 8 adds to 9. 2 and 4 adds to 6. So let's scroll the other way. Oh, there's negative 2 and negative 4. So it takes away half of the thought process. Take the number you want to multiply to, divide it by x, and then you could just look in your table and find the pair that adds to what you want. Our last one on this page, so we've got 1 in front of the x squared, so we can just do adds to the middle, multiplies to the end. So we want something that multiplies to negative 15 and adds to negative 2. Well, the only way to multiply to a negative is if one is positive and one is negative. So we're going to have x plus something and x minus something. Well, 15, our options are 1 and 15 or 3 and 5. The negative is what we want to add to, negative 2, so the bigger one should be negative. So the thing that will work out here is a negative 5 and a positive 3, because negative 5x plus 3x will give us the negative 2x. So those are basic factoring. The main thing I want to practice today is more difficult factorings. Factorings when the leading coefficient is not 2. We are going to show you a technique that will turn this into a factor by grouping problem. Now, first off, when solving a quadratic equation, you should have seen last year that we consider the number in front of the x squared the a, the b is in front of the x, and the c is the constant. I like to call this method I'm going to show you the a times c method, because we're going to multiply our a times our c in order to do this. So again, you only do this if your leading coefficient is not 1. In this case, it's 2 for us. So we're going to do a times c. So 2 times negative 7 will give us negative 14. This remains what we want to add to, but now the negative 14 is what we want to multiply to. So we want two numbers that will multiply to negative 14 and add to 5. So we need opposite signs. So the things that would work would be 7 and negative 2. This does not directly give you your factors, though. All it tells you is how you're going to split up the middle. We're still going to have 2x squared, and we're still going to have a minus 7. Now let me just go back to the a times c. Notice when I did do a times c, I did it as 2 times negative 7. Make sure you take the sign of the c with it. All right, so the 7 and negative 2 is how we're going to split up the 5x. Instead of having 5x now, we're going to have plus 7x and minus 2x. And it does not matter the order that you do those in. Now this becomes a factor by grouping problem. Factor by grouping you use when there are 4 terms. And what we do is we split it down the middle. And we see what can we pull out of those first 2 terms. What do they have in common? Well, 2 and 7, there's no common factors, but they do each have an x you can take out. So if we take the x out, we have 2x plus 7. Now what you do is you automatically write that 2x plus 7 over on the other side. And then you have to think about what should go in front of that parenthesis so that when you distribute it, it will give you the negative 2x minus 7. Well, in this case, what we would need is negative 1. And you always need some number out in front there, even if it's just a positive 1. It's got to be some number to make it work. So our last step is we do 2 parentheses right next to each other. One of them is going to be the 2x plus 7 that was in both spots. And then the other one is the x minus 1 that was out front. And this is our factoring of that original trinomial. If you wanted to check it, you could multiply it out and confirm that it gives you that original trinomial. So again, this is a technique you use when the leading coefficient, that a value, is not 1. And I like to call it the a times c method because that's the first thing you do is multiply the a and the c together. So we'll do one more together and then let you practice 3 of them on your own. So notice here that the a value is not 1. So we want to be thinking a times c. And I didn't write the directions on here, but the directions are factor once again. So a times c, 3 times negative 10 gives us negative 30. So we want to add to the 1 that is in front of the x, and we want to multiply to negative 30. So to multiply to a negative, they need opposite signs. And for 30, to get a positive 1, we would want positive 6 and negative 5. Remember, if you struggle with your factors, do negative 30 divided by x in a graphs page on the calculator. Do Control T, and then just find the pair that will add to positive 1. So remember, this is just how the middle is split up. We still have the 3x squared and the minus 10, but the middle will now be plus 6x minus 5x. And again, those can go either order. You'll get the same answer in the long run. Now that there's 4 terms, we'll factor by grouping. We'll split down the middle. In the first 2 terms, the 3 and the 6, you can take a 3 out, and x squared and x, you can take an x out. Taking 3x out of the first term will leave us with just an x, and out of the second term will leave us with just a 2. Automatically write the x plus 2 over on the other side, and then ask yourself, what needs to be distributed to give us negative 5x minus 10? Well, that would be a negative 5. Final step, do 2 sets of parentheses right next to each other. You've got the x plus 2 that was in both spots, and the 3x minus 5 that's out front. And that is our factoring of the original trinomial. Feel free to multiply it out to check if you want. So you'll do 3 examples on your own. They're in the link right after the assignment link on Schoology. After you do the first one, look down at the bottom, check your answer. If you're correct, go on to the second one. If you're not correct, re-watch the video, this video right here, the 2 examples that we just did, the ones where you got to do the a times c method. Because if you didn't get it correct, then you need to re-watch it and solidify the process before you go back. So then go back, retry the first one until you get it right. Okay, but don't go on to the next one until you've re-watched the video and make sure you get the first one right. Same thing, don't move on from the second one until you're sure that you've gotten it right. And getting it right doesn't mean just copying the answer from the bottom, it means getting it right on your own. So that means going back and watching the video, refreshing and seeing where you might be stuck. Post any questions that you have to the content discussion board on Schoology.